It's time for another episode of the Tech Informist podcast. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin.
And I am Brad.
On this episode, we are going to talk about this week's Microsoft news.
A man reportedly loses 50 pounds on a virtual reality bike.
Just who are the 2017 inductees into the Video Game Hall of Fame?
Space-based broadband on the way in 2019?
And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe thoughts. Well, Brad, there's been a lot of things that's been going on the last few weeks, and if listeners have been listening to the last few episodes, they do know that you have put in your 2 weeks' notice at your current employer and switching complete industries. You're not just going from one auto repair company to another auto repair company here in St. Louis. You are joining the Redmond mothership, not moving to Redmond, Washington, of course, but staying local here in St. Louis and joining the team at Microsoft. And it just so happens that this week there was a whole bunch of Microsoft news.
Yep.
Which, in preparation for your new position, I'm sure you spent a lot of time paying attention and digging into what was announced and unveiled this week from Microsoft.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and, you know, as it is, Microsoft is sometimes bad about conveying what they actually mean or what things actually are. And that's where media comes involved and we kind of explain things. And I happen to be on both sides of the fence somehow. Obviously, the kind of one of the bigger news things other than the hardware is Windows 10 S. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a huge step forward for Microsoft. And it's not just your average run-of-the-mill RT. It's kind of something different. You know, it has a lot of, in quotations, power of the cloud and all that.
So I think RT kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah. And Windows RT, like even when you say it, it's like, what is that? At least with Windows 10 S, it's like, oh, S. Like slim or student? Like a slimmed down version? Like lighter? That it makes sense.
Or stripped? Depending on what side of the fence
you're
on.
Yes. But the nice thing about Windows 10 S is a lot of the, like I was mentioning, it's much lighter than just regular 10 or 10 Pro. By that, you know, you can sign in faster, which I guess if you're a student could be a big deal. Like, oh, I need to sign on and email my professor this thing real quick.
Right.
You know, or even in businesses, that could be a really big deal to sign in quicker. Right.
You show up for a meeting and you want to open your laptop. You want it to be able to get in really quick, whether you're using Windows Hello, using a fingerprint reader, or whatever you're typing in your passcode.
I mean, sort of the big beat, though, is you can't just install apps off of plain old web. You know, you have to go to the store to get these apps.
So I can't download executables and install them.
Yeah, or Chrome for in the current state that it sits. You know, it has to go to the store for this to happen. It's kind of a secret Trojan horse, and I kind of applaud Microsoft for this. This is really kind of smart of them to do. Launch this new hardware, launch this new software, but in order to use all of your normal software that you would want to use, hey, maybe get the developers you got to put it in the store because we're trying to make it more secure. It's kind of a smart thing. We'll see if that happens. I think that quite a few are already on board and already thinking about this. For those who didn't know, might be thinking, well, I guess we might as well just package our app. Because you can package any app and put it in the store. That's just a matter of flipping the few little switches that you do when you're a coder, because I'm not a coder. I don't know how it works.
Right. Taking your executable and make it an installable app that's available on the App Store.
Which is contained from the OS, so if something malicious were to happen, you can get rid of those apps, which is why it's safer.
Right.
It's
a lot
more
easier
contained
to uninstall an app than it is to when you're dealing with an executable that you go into the program's install folder after it's installed, and there's hundreds and hundreds of different files, and you're like, what the hell do all these things do? Now it's just right-click, uninstall, and boop, all gone.
Yeah, and kind of the more important thing is it's not like Windows RT like we've been mentioning. It's not a light version of Windows. It performs exactly like Windows 10, other than you can't just go to Google's website and download Chrome OS or whatever, or Chrome, browser, or different apps off of the web. You have to go to the store. That's kind of that big, safe selling point behind this. This is something that you would definitely want to use in enterprise, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Enterprise, school environments, things like that.
Yeah, and in fact, the way this is geared, you get the whole Office suite for free if you get Windows 10s. That's kind of a huge step for Microsoft, because I don't know if you know, but Office is kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Even if you did not like all of these things, like you want to download your certain app that you can't, that's not in the store, there's no way to get in the store because you're not involved with the app. Guess what? Here till the end of the year, you can upgrade for free.
Mm-hmm.
And
from
after
Windows
that,
10s to Windows 10
Pro. And after that, it's only $49 to upgrade. And I say only because that is actually pretty dang cheap to get a Pro version of Windows 10.
A fourth of the retail price of $199.
Right, exactly. So many smart things happening here, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm slightly one-sided because I don't know if I need to disclose this every time, but I work for Microsoft, or will be working for Microsoft, but I still think these are really smart ideas that could go a very long way. Mm-hmm. I mean, this could really strengthen their position in the App Store. Because, again, it's not like they need to rewrite their apps. They just need to package it up and put it in the store. It needs to be
compiled differently to run differently. And, again, it is all going to boil down to developers and programmers and companies to take the time to change the way that this installs. Obviously, I think it's going to help eliminate the fact of, there are different ways that you can install Chrome. There's always those illegitimate sites and stuff that package other junk in there, when most people that's going to install Chrome know to go to Google and get it directly from Google, not do a Google search and get some scammy ad that comes up first or second and install from there. It's a little bit more safer way to do that.
Read before you click.
It would definitely be something I'd want to just put on my dad's computer.
Absolutely. So this would be perfect for a lot of us folk who take care of our parents' technology standpoint. Mm-hmm. Putting this on their computer, safer. They won't download anything that they're not supposed to because they'd have to go to the store to do it. Where, if normally you're online and you're clicking around, you accidentally click something and it starts installing, you're kind of screwed. Where in this case, parents, they didn't grow up with this stuff. My parents didn't. Your parents didn't.
No, definitely not.
So this is such a good idea on so many levels. And actually the ideas just keep as we were here talking, as you said that, it's like, oh my God, yeah. I definitely would put this on my grandparents' computer, or I definitely would, recommend this to my mom, I guess.
So did they say during this presentation that you would be able to purchase Windows 10s on its own if you wanted to install that on a parent's computer, for example?
Believe so, and I believe it was around the $129 mark.
Yeah, not bad.
And I think that's for a full version, not like an upgrade version. So like the upgrade version or a downgrade, or I don't know what you would really go, lateral version.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask, if it's an upgrade, downgrade, side grade, whatever.
But I don't know if pricing would be different, but a full version of this, so for instance, if I build a new computer, I could potentially put on Windows S, I guess, Windows 10s. But yeah, along with these good ideas, they also had new hardware. And that sort of leaked the night before, which it usually seems to be the case with Microsoft, unfortunately, lately. When I initially saw these, I thought that they might have been kind of more mid-range, kind of more taking over what the Surface 3 was when they had, that kind of mid-tier Surface. But no, these are full-on, these are meant to compete against the MacBook. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the actual specs, it kind of shows. I mean, they're using really gorgeous screens, and they're using the 3:2 aspect ratio. That seems to be their staple with Surface. So
yeah, their displays have just been beautiful and high res and just gorgeous displays. There's never been a question of that.
And guess what? I mean, aside from the Apple, computers, it's touchscreen. You can use your pen, you can use your dial, you can use all those fancy things. It's probably I wish Apple could somehow figure out the touchscreen thing. 'Cause anymore, kids just want to touch the screen.
Mm-hmm. And that's my wife. She will touch my screen. She will touch car windows. I'm like, you can point at something, but you don't have to touch the glass or touch the screen.
Don't put fingerprints on it.
And I like tap her hand. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you don't have to touch the screen for me to see what you're pointing at. I was like, So I've got all these little wipes and things down here so I can keep my stuff clean. And
so
I just hate smudges.
It is a 13.5-inch pixel sense display, which is Microsoft's technology. 2256 by 1504. That's a kind of a weird aspect ratio, but again, it's the 3:2. It's what we all know and love with the Surface brand, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It is a 7th gen Intel Core i5 or i7, depending on which one you decide's right for you.
I would go i7.
I would too, personally.
Yep.
The storage options are right down to the point. 128, 256, or 512. Memory, 4 gigs is not enough for the base to start. Yeah, I would definitely go 8 gigs. You can also go up to as high as 16, so that's a nice touch.
I think 32 would be overkill for something like this because, again, this is not something you're going to be doing like some heavy-duty stuff on.
Absolutely.
But an 8 or 16, 4 gig, I'd get where they did the 4 is just to keep it that affordable point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't.
I mean, again,
think of getting 4.
The what seems like $100 more, that extra bit more to get that extra RAM, you will thank yourself for getting it.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously has the Intel 620 graphics, the HD graphics, and the Intel Iris Plus graphics, which I'm not 100% for sure on that. I'm sure it's the built-in.
Yeah, that comes with the i7. So with the i5, you get that 620.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
And then the i7, you get the 640, which, of course, with the i7,
you get a little more power.
Iris Plus graphics is going to be a little bit more high-powered. I don't know how this will be gaming-wise.
Yeah, it would be a good one to use your Xbox to stream to. If, let's say, your significant other's on the couch watching TV and you have no access to that screen, it's like, oh, well, she's using, the Roku or whatever. I'm going to hop on the Xbox, but I can still sit right by her or him or whoever. Anyway, front camera, 720p, normal stuff, but it has Windows Hello face authentication. Now, I hope this is better than Samsung's face authentication. I'm pretty sure it is because I believe when they were demoing this, you could not just use a picture and sign in.
No, that's good because that can be kind of a issue.
My biggest gripe, though, is there's no fingerprint sensor.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising.
But, I mean, you can get a little dongle for that, I guess.
If you really want it.
Really wanted the fingerprint stuff.
Then again, for a dongle, you only got one USB port. And it's USB Type A, not Type C, which has a lot of people scratching their heads going, it's 2017, this is a Surface Line. Typically, Surface Line are the devices that kind of help push things forward.
Yeah.
And in this case, they just stayed with one Type A port.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said. However, to their credit, they're sort of right. A lot of businesses and or schools are still stuck in the past, and that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. So having that regular USB port, the 3.0, kind of makes sense, and I understand why they kept it in there.
I completely agree why it's there.
Yeah.
But why not have
the
one on the other side?
Well, you could have had 2 USB Type-Cs in place of just the one. Because they're so much smaller. Anyway, I'm sure the next version will have 2 at least.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
What do you think of the speaker setup on this thing?
I really
am curious. Down
underneath
the keyboard and how this is going to work. I'm wondering how loud something like that will be.
Well, and from what I've heard of people hearing it for themselves, it sounds pretty good. In fact, better than some of the Surface Pro lines.
I'm just curious, though, whenever you got your hands typing and your hands are covering the keyboard, This is going to kind of muffle it a little bit in a way. You would think.
No, I don't think too much because your fingers are spaced out, and I would imagine that the sound would kind of blast through that. You're not like trying to like cover.
Yeah, you're not smothering the keyboard.
Yeah, so I think it'll be okay.
Some people, kind of get little chubby hands.
They do claim 14.5 hours of use.
Yeah.
So
in other words,
I'm sure that's off of like, the packaged app in the store for playing videos, and it's just like, oh, look, we can do video playback for 14 hours. So in real world, I'm guessing somewhere around 10, which is still pretty good.
8 to 10.
It's still pretty good, though. Well, you have to admit. And the weight, under 3 pounds for a laptop, that's pretty good.
It doesn't come with the Surface Pen, but it is Surface Pen capable.
Yes, along with the dial as well.
Mm-hmm. I just don't think I'd be putting the dial on that because it's light. And again, it's kind of like a Mac where you can only open the screen so far. It's not like you can lay it flat or fold it back.
That's sort of the downside of this. However, for those of you who were asking for a laptop, here it is. Like, this is the one to get. I'm kind of curious. What's your favorite color out of these?
That's actually kind of tough because they really... It was one of the first lines where I've seen all 4 that would be available at launch and go, I'd be happy with either one. Personally, I would probably go with the carbon kind of graphite.
The graphite gold?
Yeah, the darker one. But that blue looks nice, too.
So at first, I heard the colors announced, and they were saying graphite gold. I'm like, oh, I want to see that in person because that sounds cool. But then the more I see that burgundy, or as I like to call it,
like a crimson
red,
as garnet,
potato.
Exactly.
All I can think is, man, a Gears of War sticker would look really good on the back of that.
There we go.
So I hate red too. I would never buy a red device, except maybe this or an Xbox, which I already did the Xbox. So
yeah. To me, they all look nice. Everything about this, to me, looks nice.
What do you think of the Alcantara, the fabric that they lay over? Well, is that something that worries you?
In a way, it does. But if it's as good as Daniel Rubino from Windows Central mentioned during his kind of preview, that it's very stain resistant and easy to wipe down and stuff like that.
So for our listeners, I've been researching this a little bit. It's oleophobic, which means it doesn't repels oil and doesn't absorb liquids or things like that. And he even mentioned, look at the store reviews on all the Alcantara stuff that they've ever made. This isn't just something they just went out and did. This is a known thing that they've done, and people love it. Mm-hmm. So I really, really want to type on this because of that. I think it's a really interesting option.
I know the unveiling video was just very well done. I mean, between the music and the visuals, and then showing how the keyboard was done, and then all of a sudden the laser cutting that out, and all of a sudden the material comes out.
I love their reveal videos. I really
that was great.
Yeah, but overall, I think it is a gorgeous device, and so there's no ports on the side to let heat out. It's actually kind of hidden in the back there.
Which is in a good spot because, like here with this MacBook Pro, it's right there at the hinge on just behind the keyboard, so it's like easier to hear. Where on this, it just completely vents out the back bottom,
which is kind of reminiscent to what the Scorpio is going to be doing. It's going to be in the back, just venting out the back, hidden. It's kind of seeing a reoccurring themes here with their new hardware, which is cool. I love when things cross over, even if it's just real slight, minute and stuff. So.
Yeah, I like consistent design. It's always nice.
Real quick, I'd be remiss if I did not mention Minecraft in this because, well, I'm a Minecraft person.
Well, really quick, though, the Surface laptop supposed to retail starting at, what, $999?
Yes, and that's for the 4 gig version. Again,
with the i5 16.
Right. 128, yeah. I would not. I just wouldn't get that. I would take that half step up, get the 8 gigs on it, and that's the one I'd go with.
But again, it kind of depends. Everybody's
depends
use
on your
is
needs.
Different.
Yeah.
Somebody just needs it for email and typing research papers.
Then that might be fine for you.
Yeah. It could be fine.
From what I understand, too, the colors actually signify certain levels of the performance. I think the silver one is when you go up really high, like the 16 gig, 512, that's only comes in silver, I think. And that's because, when you look at the Surface line, that silver is kind of signifies that premium quality, which... me and silver, I'm not a fan, but I get it. It's part of their MO, so.
Yeah.
They also did announce an education edition with Minecraft where you can go in while you play and code and learn to code. I might actually try to use this a little bit because I love Minecraft. I can spend hours and hours playing it. But this is good for the growing minds at school. This, you got to get kids interested, and the only way to do that is to kind of tailor to what they already like.
Yeah.
And kids love Minecraft. I love Minecraft.
And they love Legos, and this is, again, I know we've said it before, but it's Legos for adults in the video game world.
This is another really good idea. Everything was just packaged up so well in this, I guess, EDU event for Microsoft.
Yeah, it's all about the educational aspect of it.
And they even talked a little mixed reality. I didn't quite brush up on that enough to convey enough about it, but they were talking about the mixed reality, and you could use regular cameras to help with some of the mixed reality stuff they were doing. Really cool stuff. So, all in all, pretty cool event. Came out with some good stuff. I guess we'll kind of see what the public thinks of it in about a month when the new Surface laptop comes out. That's going to be hard.
It is. You got Surface Book, you got Surface Pro, now Surface Laptop, and Surface Studio, but back to the code builder for Minecraft Education Edition. It's now actually available in open beta on Windows 10 and Mac OS. So there's actually a link that you can go to the Minecraft Education Edition download site. So you can kind of start playing around with that now, regardless of what OS platform you're on.
I believe if you are curious about the new laptops, some of the Microsoft stores have them in store now, if you want to go look at them. And I think pre-orders have already started. And they ship the 15th of June.
Right. So, again, just a little over a month from the day that we record this.
Yeah, so I'm actually planning to go today. I have, obviously, business to attend to there. Haven't started yet, but I have to go talk to a few people, so it just so happens I'll swing by and maybe look at a laptop.
Yep, so in a week or two, he'll be there. So recently, some news came out about a man in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who has lost over 50 pounds through the use of a virtual reality bicycle. So for those of you who follow me, you know that I do another podcast called Everything VR and AR. Well, the first guest that we had on that podcast way back last year in 2016 was a representative from the company called Verzoom. So it's a VR-based company that has this, it looks like a stationary bike, and then you wear this headset, and there's game interaction, and you can do a bunch of different things.
They were the ones on the Today Show, right?
I believe so, yes. So there's different videos. They've been around for actually quite a while, a few years now. So William Brierly is 36 years old. He works on marketing and public relations for Verzoom, and he has now reportedly lost over 50 pounds just by riding this and playing these different games 20 to 30 minutes roughly a couple times a week. So he says 2 to 4 times per week he spends 20 to 30 minutes on the Verzoom bike with a VR headset.
That's so awesome.
And that's one of the things that he compares it to, like kayaking. Whenever you're kayaking, you are just in your little kayak by yourself or with a group of people, but you're still kind of going at your own pace, enjoying the environment around you, not even really realizing that you're getting a nice upper body workout by kayaking, because you're constantly paddling and turning and steering and stuff like that, which if you've yet to go kayaking, it's so much fun, so relaxing. It's so great to get away and just
unplug.
You just get right in the center. You get in the river or whatever it is that you're kayaking on, lay your paddle in your lap, and you just look around and you're like, This is so nice. It's so quiet. It's so peaceful. It's really a great experience. But this is great to see somebody has actually lost weight using these things. It's awesome.
I mean, this sort of, PR stuff definitely helps their product. I mean, I know plenty of people like myself who like to play games who, maybe could lose a couple pounds. And if you could play games and lose, a little weight, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've got about 30 I could give somebody. So if anybody out there wants 30 pounds, just you know where to find me. Just come ask. I'll gladly try to give it over to you. But no, it's really good to see a company like this that is not just bringing technology forward, but it's also beneficial for people's health. And not everybody wants to just go to the gym and get on a stationary bike. It's boring as heck. Yeah, you got TVs. Yeah, you got music. At least here it's kind of putting you in a distraction, like mental state where you're like, oh, I'm not really focusing, but oh my God, I'm actually exercising.
This is actually kind of fun kind of thing. And, I could see this evolve to a point to where you go to choose an environment to cycle in or fly or whatever the case may be for that particular environment, where it could constantly evolve and maybe it could auto-populate different surroundings and make a different experience every time you go into this. So you're not constantly seeing the same thing all the time. Like a lot of games, we're used to playing. We see the same stuff all the time.
Well, imagine integrating it with like Google Street View, for example.
Ooh.
To where you could be biking around.
Paris.
Yeah, you could bike the Tour de France if you wanted to.
That stuff's cool to me.
That would be pretty darn awesome.
Yeah.
Or you want to bike in the Appalachian Mountains or through Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, and stuff like that. That would be nice. Or you want to bike across Kansas because you need your mind to slow down because there's nothing to see in Kansas as you drive through. Not to say we're putting people that live in Kansas down because it's a great state. But it's not exactly the most interesting one to drive through.
It's a great state, but it's not Missouri.
Yeah. We've got our own problems over here. Don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys have Sprint. You got all these other companies. You've got things like Google Fiber, Kansas City, but Overland Park, great little areas. But no, it's good to see Verzoom getting this kind of publication. And they're also partnering up with AMD to bring VR to the gym. So this kind of goes hand in hand that they've announced a collaborative effort to bring the Verzoom platform to a wider consumer base, seeing it installed in gyms and arcades. So that's even more awesome because it's really cool that they're doing this.
Now, this will really shine if they could get this to work with a phone, where you have a kind of clip-on thing you can clip onto any bike and maybe even, integrate with one of your watches or fitness tracker. And then integrate to your phone. You just slip the phone on, slip the headset on, and boom, you're ready to rock and roll at the gym, any gym, and not just they don't have to spend the money for the big product. Even though maybe the bigger product might work better, it would still be an entry point into that world.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to put a link to that interview with the Verzoom representative that I did way back in 2016. In this episode's show notes. So be on the lookout for that and have a listen and let us know what you think. The show has evolved a lot. Since that first episode. Way back and just trying to figure out the format. It's changed a lot over 50 some odd episodes. So good for Verzoom and AMD for doing this. So kudos. I think we all are pretty much fans of video games, and as I'm 41, you're coming up on
30.
You are coming up on 30. Or are you 30? I can't remember.
I'm 29.
29. So
Slow down there.
Knocking on the door.
Got one foot in the grave.
But with that, it seems like every episode that we record, there's a kind of a milestone anniversary of some of the games that we grew up with.
We're in that time. This is prime time for all those anniversaries of all those great games we played as kids, honestly.
But the most recent class for 2017 of games to go into the Video Game Hall of Fame, which I honestly didn't even realize existed, but it would have been silly for it not to, is getting 4 new entries.
What are those entries?
Well, first you've got the classic Donkey Kong, which pretty much resurrected video gaming here in the United States.
Yeah.
And helped propel Nintendo back to power when Atari just kind of bit the dust.
Well, not necessarily back to power, but kind of to a position to
withstand that fall out.
Yes.
Because with Donkey Kong being so successful in arcades, it helped them bring in enough funds to where they kind of survived and could continue on as Atari and other companies kind of started falling by the wayside. Then you've got Pokemon.
Red and green.
Red and green.
Being the original Japanese, which eventually evolved into red and blue. Absolutely, that needs to be in there.
Yeah, those were game changers, pardon the pun.
I mean, I see what you did there. I mean, that was a meteor that hit the United States in, 1997 when those games released here. I remember going to the brand new Walmart that we just got in Waterloo, Illinois, and picking up Red version because, well, it matched my Game Boy at the time. Mm-hmm. But, I grew to love that series and still love that series so much. I still play it on my 3DS.
I would say Charizard looks pretty badass.
Right?
I've always liked him just based on the way that he looks.
I mean, he's a dragon. Okay.
A big old
not
flying,
quite a dragon.
fire-breathing dragon-like creature.
Yeah, at least he looks like a dragon.
Yeah. He just looks badass as opposed to like Bulbasaur and Squirtle or...
Yeah, I'm in agreement with this.
Yeah. Not to say those are bad characters because they've each got their own strengths.
But Charizard's badass. Come on.
Yeah, it just... Next up, we've got Street Fighter 2. So for those of you who spent time in the arcades back in the mid-90s...
Pizza Hut, anyone?
Yes, you know all about Ryu, Ken, Blanca, E. Honda.
Now, I did not play a lot of Street Fighter 2 as a kid, but I definitely understand its importance. Mm-hmm. So from here is where Mortal Kombat started to evolve, right?
Yes.
Because Street Fighter 2 was a solid game.
Yeah, it was. It was like the real Street Fighter 1 got people's attention, and then Street Fighter 2 just stepped it up, and then it just kept evolving from there.
It's like going from the original Super Smash to Melee. Mm-hmm. Melee got people's attention big time.
Yeah, it did. And then last but not least, Halo Combat Evolved. So Halo 1, Xbox.
So I definitely also see why this one is in here. Mm-hmm. Because if it were not for Bungie and Halo, Xbox may not exist.
Right.
Plain and simple. They had no killer app. They had no reason to get into gaming, as it were, except to try to invade the living room same way Sony was, and Microsoft didn't want Sony to just completely take over. So they got into the gaming business and, bought this little company called Bungie and made Halo, made Halo, which was originally for the Mac. So you can see the progression of evolution, pardon the pun there too, for Halo Combat Evolved. But yeah, absolutely this deserves a spot.
Yeah, so more than half of the Microsoft Xbox consoles that were initially sold included the launch game because people were buying it. You bought an Xbox and Halo.
It's like right now you buy a Switch and you buy Zelda. Mm-hmm. It's what you do.
Right. It's what you do. And now with the new Mario Kart. But yeah, it was the system seller. That's
absolutely.
Yeah, you got it to play that. And it was a solid single-player campaign. There was no multiplayer on it back then. Mm-hmm. Not online. You could kind of do some stuff.
I would venture to say that has to be one of the greatest launch titles in the history of gaming, other than
especially for a first-gen console.
Right, and I think even Mario 64 was not a launch title. At launch, right. Day and date. It was in launch window, so it was like a month later. Mm-hmm. And had, it been launch day, I still would argue that would be like one of the greatest ones.
I mean, I had Halo sitting in my trunk of my car before I could even buy my Xbox that day.
Dang.
So, because you could buy the games earlier before they started selling the console.
So you know how big of an Xbox fan I am.
Mm-hmm.
I never owned an original Xbox. I played a little Halo here and there. In fact, actually, funny story. I was going to go buy an original Xbox to, be able to play Halo. When I got to the store, which was GameStop, at the time, still is, I told the lady, hey, I want to get, Halo 2 and an Xbox. And I guess since the 360 had just launched and they had a few used ones in, she brought that out instead of the original Xbox. It was a little more money, but I was just kind of like, yeah, screw it. I'm going to get the new one.
May as well.
And from there on, that changed everything for me gaming-wise, because that was my first console outside of Nintendo. So that's a pretty big step.
Yeah, it is. So it's nice to see these classic games still getting the recognition they deserve for what they mean to the world of video games. And also, nominations for the Hall of Fame class of 2018 are open. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to more of this and seeing who gets inducted next year.
What kind of games would you want to see in 2018?
That's a good question. I'd have to find out what exactly is already inducted.
There aren't many because it just started in 2015.
Okay.
I'm being a little biased here. I would argue that Metroid needs to make it in there eventually, because it was kind of that, not first game, I'm sure there was many, but the game that you realized, oh, wow, I've been playing as a girl the whole time, or a woman the whole time in this game. You thought that it was a guy until the reveal at the end of the game. Spoilers.
Like, what?
Yeah, I would argue that that's kind of a pretty decent milestone. I would eventually like to see that in there, I think.
And I know they mentioned some of the other finalists for the 2017 class was Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, yeah.
Microsoft Windows Solitaire, Mortal Kombat, Myst, Portal, Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, and Wii Sports.
There's some good ones in there.
There are, and
there's some ones that I would not have thought of, like Wii Sports, but it's very much a contender.
It should be, because it spanned generations. Anybody could play. There were numerous stories of nursing home facilities and rehab facilities using Wii Sports as rehab therapy to get that range of motion and stuff.
Many of remotes through to TVs.
Yeah, strap around your wrist. And then, of course, who hasn't played Windows Solitaire?
Right. I mean, other than maybe kids that are relatively small these days because they watch more YouTube, but I definitely have played my fair share of Solitaire.
Right. It's kind of how you, in my opinion, that's how I learned to play Solitaire. And then once I learned how to do it, I'm like, I'm just going to do it with a real deck of cards now. I know how to play.
Yeah.
And then Mortal Kombat. I mean, that, again, kind of like Street Fighter... Kind of like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat kind of changed the world of fighting games.
It changed ratings for games.
It played a big role in a lot of things in the world of video games. But all of those are kind of essential to the history of video games. Tomb Raider, a great, you mentioned Metroid as a female lead character. I mean, Lara Croft.
Kind of unheard of in the 80s. I mean, it sort of coincides with one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time, Aliens. I mean, but her character was sort of based off of Ripley, so they're sort of married whether you like it or not, and that just makes me extra happy.
Portal with the different gameplay on how you had to be creative to get past the levels, to get your portals right.
I would argue Portal 2 is the better one, but Portal... the original definitely nailed the concept.
Resident Evil, I mean, that's horror game legend right there. Myst, not a whole lot of stuff going on,
but that
not like a high action game,
point and click adventure. I mean, Myst is right. That it has to be mentioned.
Yeah. So, And, of course, the Final Fantasy series. I honestly have not played much Final Fantasy in my life, so I
really liked Final Fantasy Tactics, but I see why 7 would be a bigger or better pick.
Just great
Guess
stuff.
we'll see.
Yes, we will. Next up, another aspect of the tech world that is near and dear to Brad's heart. SpaceX has outlined plans for 2019 launch of space-based broadband.
Space, the final frontier.
Exactly. Which did you see where Stephen Hawking said that if we don't colonize a planet within 100 years, we're
going to go extinct or whatever?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Hey, people have made wilder, more wild? I don't know.
Something
Interesting
like
claims before, and I think we've been fine, so
right.
I don't know.
So 57% of the world's population, which is about some 4.2 billion people, is currently without internet access. And I know that's something that you and I especially, and probably the majority of people listening, we just take this stuff for granted so much.
We really do.
But one of the statistics offered up by SpaceX's Patricia Cooper this week as she fronted the U.S. Senate to outline the company's plans to plug the gaps using a network of internet beaming satellites.
I wonder if Facebook would want to get in on this a little. Because Facebook really has been pushing get everybody internet, get everybody information. And, this needs to happen.
Well, I know that Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have partnered up to get satellites up into space to kind of help with this, which that's when that one accident happened that
right with the HoloLens too.
Yeah, it just so happened to fall over and blow up, and that satellite got destroyed. And
whoops! Hope you had insurance.
So the service is expected to cost approximately $10 billion to the United States and involve 4,425 individual satellites, which will provide speeds on par with that of optical fiber.
That's kind of impressive.
Yeah. I think it would be kind of interesting to see this happen.
Along with having the entire world kind of have a voice instead of just, the select few in quotations, I also really would like to see us find life on another planet. Those are the two things I really want to see in my lifetime.
Now, when you mention the fact that they're looking to put over 4,000 satellites in space to do this, you have to factor in that there's currently approximately 1,459 satellites orbiting the Earth right now. So that's going to really populate.
Launches could be difficult.
And then, man, you got to worry about all these things colliding and space.
It sounds okay. So that does sound like a lot, but the Earth is really big. So, and I don't know if me saying that really conveys the Earth is really big. Like, I don't see this being a problem. I really don't.
It's not flat.
No, it is not. That is not an alternative fact. That is just wrong.
And Cooper also said that approximately, again, this is just approximate numbers, 34 million Americans lack access to 25 megabits per second broadband service.
Shoot, that's just in the United States. I could name a lot of people who just don't even have that in the United States, let alone across the world.
Right. Because, I know a number of people that their only option still is those huge satellites and, that satellite broadband service, which is horrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's better than nothing. But
that's fair.
To a point, you're better off just spending the money to get an unlimited data plan through your cell provider.
And tether.
If you live in an area that gets good cellular service, because that can also be a factor.
Uh-huh.
You're living out kind of not necessarily the middle of nowhere, but areas that aren't conduit, or that areas that just aren't conducive for good cellular service, with a lot of peaks and valleys and things like that.
I could never live in an area that does not have a good internet connection.
I couldn't either. That's one of the first things I always ask real estate agents. It's like, all right, what are my internet options here? I don't know. It's like, well, you need to know, because until you know, there's really no point in me seeing this house.
Pretty much.
Oh.
I see we're on the same page.
Very much so. I cannot go back.
No.
I could not.
No.
As much as I would love to live in an area that just didn't have as much population and had a lot more nature and stuff around me, you got to have internet.
Yeah.
Because it's just the way the world works these days.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love my Xbox Live.
yeah. And if they could get this thing running where it could at least give you 25 megabits per second, I could deal with that.
Shoot, I used to game with 6 megabytes per second. I could definitely do that.
I mean, hell, I've played football on Dreamcast, NFL 2K1 on dial-up. And
256.
yeah, and it worked great. So let's just do this. I think it'd be pretty good to do. So we're planning to launch a prototype by the end of 2017, followed by another in the first month of 2018, and once it's been successfully demonstrated, SpaceX plans to kick off a launch campaign in 2019, which would see the satellites fired into orbit in phases through to the year 2024, at which point the system would reach full capacity. And of course, that's if everything's approved.
Yep.
So, sounds good to me. Lastly, this story has no links to it. This is just personal opinions and personal thoughts on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Switch. Now, by the fact that I didn't have a Nintendo Wii U, I have not had a chance to play Mario Kart 8 as it was, and the DLC and all the characters and all the tracks. But the great thing about this is you get like 40-something tracks, access to all these characters, and a lot of the tracks are ones that you will be familiar with through past Mario Kart games. And they're so fun. And the fact that I see some of them on there that are like from GameCube with Mario Kart Double Dash and other versions of Nintendo 64 tracks and Nintendo DS tracks and things like that. It's like, oh my god, this is so neat to see them updated visually, and the gameplay is still the same. It's like, ooh, I still remember all this stuff, and the shortcuts are there, and
that's awesome.
It is very fun.
Mario Kart is definitely near and dear to my heart. It is one of the original games I had for the Nintendo 64. I never played it for the Super Nintendo, but ironically, my slightly younger wife only played it on the Super Nintendo, so it is also near and dear to her heart. So I could understand getting this and both of us liking it in its own way.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it, and I mean, I can understand why some people that had it on the Wii U that bought all the DLC and stuff like that are like, oh, really? I'm double dipping for this. But I mean, you do get the new battle modes, which were not on the
Oh,
Wii.
yes.
So you can pop balloons, you can do the shine sprite, where it's kind of like you go after that person that has the sprite at the moment.
Right.
And then there's like a cops and robbers kind of thing, where you have to try to capture these people and put them in the little jail, and other people have to break them out. It's really fun.
So awesome.
And another one's just collect as many coins as you can. But the online racing is fantastic. The only issues I've been having is sometimes it seems like you get disconnections or whatever it says. I've only had it happen once during a match. There have been times I'd had trouble getting into lobbies and stuff like that.
Now, I know it's called Mario Kart, but would you be opposed to seeing somebody like Zelda or Samus show up eventually?
No. I mean, Link is in there.
Oh, he is?
And there's even a Hyrule themed track on there, and the coins are replaced with rupees.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Apparently they're already thinking ahead.
So Samus is not in
But
the
we
game.
already know how Nintendo thinks of Metroid, and I have a few choice words for them.
Yeah. But I mean, pretty much all the familiar characters are there. They've added some Splatoon characters and some other things like that. It's fun, and you get to customize your cart or your motorcycle. You get all these different options as you complete different cups on the 50.
So
100,
unlockables.
150. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
And then they've each kind of changed the speed, weight, traction, acceleration, different attributes of your cart.
So it sounds like you really are enjoying your purchase instead of waiting, you said you were going to.
I had thought about waiting, and then after we'd recorded, I was starting to get kind of tired. I'm like, I'm just ready to go. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go home, I'm just going to be kind of relaxing. Maybe I should pick this up instead of waiting. So I did, and I'm glad that I did because I've probably spent 5, 6, 7, 8 hours on it. I haven't spent as much as most other players that are already almost 4,000 points on the regular competitive racing. It's like,
I really hope they do something like this for, let's say, something like Super Smash Brothers, where it's just, hey, you get everything in the package for here's this, I guess $60.
I'd love to see them come out with even more DLC. I think it would be awesome.
I mean, they are finally open to that option. The Wii U sort of helped, usher in that, even though a lot of people didn't have a Wii U.
Yeah. The controls are fantastic.
Have you tried playing with the
Wiimotes and
Joy-Cons separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, again, why I feel that the Nintendo Switch kickstand is a piece of shit. It's too damn flimsy. It's too flimsy. That's the worst thing about the Nintendo Switch is that stupid little kickstand.
So
it's not wide enough and it's not centered, which is stupid.
Yeah, getting a case that maybe has a better kickstand is probably a good purchase.
Either a case or you get the little table stand.
That's
I mean, you can get that table stand accessory, but again, I don't want to have to carry that with me.
Yeah.
If I'm just wanting to bring my Switch in its little pouch or whatever.
Right.
I just want to put it on the table and not worry about if somebody bumps the table, it's going to fall over.
Maybe they should have talked to somebody like HTC, who has been known for kickstands.
Right.
Or Microsoft.
And they've got the kickstand set up basically the same way that the HTC. It's just not as tall, so it doesn't spread back as far.
Yeah.
It's it's terrible. But no, the controls are fine playing docked or undocked. Typically, I play undocked. This is a display. The resolution is great. It looks great on the TV. The sounds are great. Like I mentioned, the controls are great. Drifting on it is so wonderful. I mean, these tracks are made for drifting. Some of them, you get the really nice long drifts where you're just drifting around the corner.
Feels so good to do.
Yeah. And some of the tracks, they're not laps. It's you reach like checkpoints.
So it's like one lap around the whole track.
Yeah, there's I don't know if it's called Wario Mountain, but either way, you're going down like a snowy ski mountain.
Oh, so it's like a sprint.
Yes.
Okay.
And you reach certain points, and that's considered a lap. And that one is one of my favorite tracks because between the music and you're kind of like slalom skiing and drifting, I was like, oh, this is so fun.
Huh.
And again, there's some hard parts in there. And the fact that it has smart steering set by default, which allows people to... It allows for little kids to play, so they don't have to worry about constantly falling off the track and stuff.
So kind of like Forza helps you drive a little better, as it were. It'll have a green, yellow, or a red line through the center of the course and sort of show you where to steer to, and it'll even auto brake for you a little bit if you're just wanting to enjoy the driving experience.
I mean, it doesn't show you,
right.
your correct paths, but you can't take the little shortcuts and stuff. You can't drive off the track. It'll keep you on there and kind of slow you down a little bit like that and if you run into a bus or a vehicle on some of the tracks, it doesn't kill you or whatever. And
bounce you up in the air or whatever it does.
But it's a great way to kind of get a feel for the tracks, and that's how I played for the first couple hours, just to kind of get a feel. Because I hadn't played the great majority of the tracks. Mm-hmm. And then you get online, you want to at least be competitive, so your points aren't going down into the 800s right off the bat. Mm-hmm. But then I did take that off, and I've been going through all the different classes, trying to unlock everything and get all 3 stars on each cup before I move on to the next one, and I'm doing very good.
You have a favorite character?
I still use Luigi. Luigi's always been my Mario Kart go-to.
Mine's always been Yoshi.
Any reason why?
I guess as a kid I really liked him, but also on at least the 64 version, he was fast because he wasn't considered one of the heavyweights. Where if you were to play battle mode, and if you try to ram somebody with Yoshi and you're trying to, let's say, ram Bowser or Donkey Kong, you get knocked out.
Yeah, it affects you more than it affects them.
But you're also sort of quicker to up and go, I think.
Yeah, I don't know why it is that I like Luigi. I've always gravitated towards Luigi.
Yeah. Let's go.
And then you always see those videos after the race is over. He's always giving people a stink eye and stuff like that. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Mean mugging them.
Yeah, he drives by and give it, throwing shade their way and stuff. It's pretty funny. And I've used Donkey Kong. Those are the two that I've probably flipped between the most. And the fact that you can choose the different like parachute glider kind of thing whenever you're over those
canyon jumps.
It's just really neat how it all plays. And I've never played with it's got this horn, and that's kind of the only way. It's like a super horn, and you typically only get that when you're towards the front. When you get that and a blue turtle shell's coming, if you time it right, you can defeat a blue turtle shell using that.
Really?
Because it kind of like causes like this earthquake around you, just with sound waves, and messes everybody up. So it's all about timing.
Yeah,
and stuff
that's
like that.
You need to really pay attention to the sound for that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you see that, it's like, oh, here it comes. So you just, I don't know.
There's been times I've dipped into second just to not get hit by it.
Yeah, because depending on what track you're on and if you're playing online versus offline, which class you're in, obviously, depending on how far the lead is, you're like, oh, I'm just going to get hit with this. Doesn't matter. Just take the beating and just go on about your business because they're too far behind. Mm-hmm. But, man, sometimes online, you go from first, second, third, down to 8, just like that.
Yeah.
Just all these red shells and blue shell, just all this stuff starts hitting you at the same time. And people online want to moan and groan about that, being, oh, it's unfair, it's not balanced. I'm like, it's how Mario Kart's been since its inception.
It's balanced.
You have every bit of opportunity to go from first to 8th as you do to go from
8th to 1st.
Yeah. I mean, I've jumped from like 5th to 2nd just by taking a little shortcut at the last second and hitting a mushroom.
Yep.
To speed up and like,
and it's the risk reward on some of the shortcuts. If you miss it, you're going to get further behind.
Mm-hmm. And the timing of using your power-ups. Mm-hmm. If you have red turtle shell or a green turtle shell or a banana that you can just hold behind you as you're going around the corner, well, that's going to prevent you from getting hit with a red turtle shell for sure. But I don't know. It's fun. If you got a Switch, pick it up. And if you don't have a Switch, go get a Switch and get this, because being able to play Mario Kart on the go is a blast.
Quick tip for some of the listeners, if you do want to get a Switch, eBay has been selling brand new Switches, and they're not at inflated prices sometimes. So
is this like from Nintendo official? Like they're
No, this is from third-party sellers.
Like Newegg or something like that.
Right, and they're bundles usually, but they're not inflated prices. So maybe check out and cautiously tiptoe in eBay occasionally if you're still looking for a Switch.
Yeah, I would say bundles with Zelda or Mario Kart are the way to go.
Or both.
You're going to get those games eventually anyway.
Uh-huh.
So don't say, I just want to buy a Switch. You need something to play on it.
Clearly. Granted,
yes, you can just buy digital, but with games like that, you kind of want to keep those.
Yeah, definitely.
So I went ahead and bought it physical.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I kind of want to just get a big old card and put everything on it.
Mm-hmm. I'm still debating. I don't know. I like having the physical aspect of it.
Yeah,
but
they are
again,
cool.
It's another game that I got to carry with me, but we'll see how that goes. It's not like I really take it with me out away from the house too often.
Right.
Granted, I'll probably be bringing it to the studio once I'm caught up on a bunch of other things. But it's still fun. Good times. Again, get it. And if you want, I'll even put my Nintendo friend code, which again, that's another stupid thing Nintendo does, the stupid friend codes. Put that in the show notes as well. So if you'd like to add me, feel free. I'd love to play some Mario Kart 8 DX online. Now it's time for our app entertainment and hardware picks. Kind of light this week, it looks like. Share with us what you've got in here.
First up, the new trailer for The Dark Tower, a Stephen King novel. I don't know enough about the series to speak on it, but the trailer looks really good, and I'm kind of interested. And, well, it has Idris Elba in it, and he's amazing. So all the more reason to... Oh, and all right, McConaughey, so...
All right.
But yeah, it does look like a movie that I would enjoy. So as soon as it comes out, I believe me and a friend of the show, Justin, are going to go check it out.
Nice. And then you've also got something in here called Bright Lights.
If you are a fan of somebody called, I don't know, Debbie Reynolds or Carrie Fisher, or maybe both, there is a wonderful documentary that... they released a little earlier than they were planning to.
This was HBO or Showtime?
HBO.
Okay.
Mostly due to the untimely death of both of them, or at least one of them. And, fans knew that this was getting made, so they were kind of begging them to release it early, and they did, from what I understand. But it's a little documentary on Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, just kind of the day in the life of, and sort of just how... their life was here towards the end, and you even see some interaction of her and her father a little bit, which you don't really hear too much about, but it's nice to know that she kind of made peace with him before he kind of, left.
Yeah, I know Carrie and Debbie were close, then they were estranged, and then within the last however many years they were close again and really had a great relationship the last definitely few years of their lives.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about Carrie Fisher is she will drop the F-bomb and she just does not care. Yeah. She speaks her mind. It reminds me so much of my wife. Mm-hmm. She does not care who she's talking to. She will speak her mind, and if you don't like it, there's the door.
Right, and I think that's kind of what society has gotten away from. We kind of need more people...
like
to
Carrie
be
Fisher.
Like that.
Yeah, I agree absolutely.
Not to just be overly abrasive and just to
for
be
no reason
an ass, just to be an ass. But call somebody out on something. If they're being stupid, then just quickly call them out. If you know they deserve to be called out.
Yeah, again, obviously she will be greatly missed for many reasons, but for me, that's kind of a big one. I love people who just speak their mind regardless of the consequences, I guess. Mm-hmm. And if they're telling just straight up the truth, not to be completely abrasive for no reason. Again, just saying the truth and how it is.
All right. And Daryl, I know that you sent us a couple more different things to look at, and we will look at those, and then we will probably put them in there on next week. Just been crazy here in St. Louis with everything else going on.
Huh. Yep.
We'll get there.
Yep.
But the thing that I want to share is, and I think we've talked about it previously, is we finished People versus O.J. Simpson.
Which we had as a pick a little while back.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fantastic.
It turned out really, really great. And it did open my eyes to a lot of different things. Because, yes, I was 18 at the time all this was going on, and the case went into 95. And I didn't realize all the behind-the-scenes stuff with Johnny Cochran and his domestic issues, which obviously was part of the issue with O.J. Simpson and Nicole Simpson, was the fact that there was a lot of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And then you've got an attorney that's defending a domestic violence person who was also charged with domestic violence, and so much stuff going on. Marsha Clark going through divorce proceedings at the same time.
The media tearing apart anything she wears, how she does her hair.
Oh my God, I didn't realize all that stuff was such a big deal then. I'm like,
it's insane. And again, it's one of those cases that if you had a TV, you knew what was going on. I was a special case. I had bigger things in my life. I was parents getting divorced and things right as this was happening. But that aside, I did know it was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this is how the people, which is the prosecutors, how things just got, dropped
Crazy.
the ball, like especially with the whole making OJ try the glove on, how that if that is truly how that came to be, where F. Lee Bailey basically called Chris Darden female genitalia for if he doesn't make OJ try the glove on, they will. And that was just a ploy to get them to bring it up.
Yep.
It was just the mind games.
Yeah,
that
very
they,
much.
quote unquote, dream team played. Wow.
And now you can sort of see why they won that case in many aspects. I mean, obviously, we all have our opinions. I still think that he did do it, but...
Well, and then you watch this and you see Robert Kardashian, who was OJ's friend for 20-plus years. You see...
Start of realizing through the process.
He's like, oh my God, I've been friends with this guy, and look at this. What... I guess it's great we're getting him off, but oh my God, we're going to get him off. And I think he thinks he did it.
Yeah.
And then, the way that final episode kind of comes to a close, you're like, wow, that's something else.
Yeah.
I want to say that they're coming out with more.
They are.
On that?
Well, not specifically just the OJ case, but every, I guess, year they're coming out with a different kind of case that affected the public in a big way.
Yeah.
I forget what this year was. I think we covered it in a couple shows back, but you can look it up.
Yeah, but again, Netflix, People vs. O.J. Simpson, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, John Travolta playing Robert Shapiro
was perfect.
It was perfect. I mean, I don't really remember Shapiro's mannerisms and stuff like that, and
I don't either. But I'm just saying,
God, he threw such little hissy fits, and
I did not think that man could still act, but that man was fantastic in it. Mm-hmm. I thought. I mean,
the scene where he comes back from the Hawaii vacation,
yes,
and he's got his little shirt on, and he's like, "Wait a second, where are all my files?" Cochran's team came, and he goes over there, and he's just basically standing there with his arms crossed, holding his breath, and calls he called F. Lee Bailey oh God, what is the biblical person? Judas. Walks in there and calls him, "You Judas." And F. Lee Bailey, is like Travolta or Robert Shapiro's godson or godfather of his son, and blah. It was really interesting to see how all this played out. So, really, really interesting. And last, as you are probably all well aware, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is now in the theaters.
What's that?
It's a movie with a talking raccoon, a little baby tree, an ex-pro wrestler all dressed up in blue, and then you got a green girl, and then you got Chris Pratt as Star-Lord.
Pretty much. Pretty much says it all.
Right, and working to be Guardians of the Galaxy again.
I'd be curious to see how the people who really, really like the first one, how they take to this one. For instance, IGN really liked the first one, but they just thought the second one was, it's okay.
Sequels are hard.
They are, especially in movies. And it's very rare that a movie, the second one is better than the first. Mm-hmm. So that being said, I'm curious to see how everyone likes it or doesn't, because I wasn't crazy about the first one. Mm-hmm. I'd still sit down and watch it again. It's not like, I'll never watch that movie again.
It makes me wonder, though, if you would have seen Guardians of the Galaxy back in theaters when it first came out, instead of waiting until and then hearing everybody's kind of hype opinion that's because I walked in, I knew nothing about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Most
I knew
people
nothing
didn't.
about the characters. I mean, Howard the Duck is in it briefly, and that's kind of the only character I knew, but he's not really a character in the first film. He's just there, and you're like, oh, Howard the Duck, check this out. Mm-hmm. So I went in with no expectations. So it was one of those, I enjoyed it because I was pleasantly surprised by how much better it was than I could have anticipated.
Right.
So I think that's why I liked it.
That's fair.
And then, of course, the soundtrack and the movie and just the acting and the lines, it's funny. It's
in
more
the same way how I think a lot of people didn't like Jurassic World, but I went and saw that with a group of friends in a theater and actually kind of really liked it.
Yeah, I think Jurassic World's pretty good.
And they're making a second one.
I know. Well, anything with Bryce Dallas Howard in it, it's just, I'm going to be there.
I almost feel the same way about Chris Pratt. I really just like him when he's goofy. plays goofy things.
That's all he does in Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just not as crazy about it as I really did want to love.
So I think this one you do need to see in theaters now before you start hearing a whole bunch of people's opinions. And
well, okay. So for instance, we watched La La Land a couple nights ago. Everyone, who went to go raved how great it was. I am personally not a musical person. However, I can sit down and appreciate one.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the end of it, there were some good scenes that happened. But overall, it borrowed from a lot of movies. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to see once you sit down and pick it apart, which you can do that with any movie. That aside, I thought it was okay. It's not really quite the hype that the Oscars was saying.
Seems like most Best Pictures aren't.
Right.
Movies that
I'm more interested in, I believe, the movie called Moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like a crazy story.
Yeah, a more intriguing story.
Right. And again, I'm not the biggest musical fan. I like Moulin Rouge and or Les Miserables. Those are my go-to musicals.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So hopefully I'll get a chance to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 soon.
Yeah.
A lot of movies I still need to see. Mm-hmm. Pressed for time.
I'm hoping, spoilers for next week.
Oh, brother, here we go.
I may get a pre-screening to Alien Covenant. May.
Nice.
I'd say about a 20% chance at this point, but we'll see.
Yeah, I've seen another shortened kind of little trailer. It was just one of those videos that plays before something else.
Right.
I was like, even though I really know nothing about the Alien series, I'm like, this still looks good. And I don't think this one's going to be something where I need to see and know the history of the Alien universe to appreciate and enjoy
not really.
this.
Yeah, definitely not.
So,
I mean, there will be bits in there for people like myself who understand that.
Right.
But yeah, you're not hard pressed to go catch up on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that kind of movie. I will warn our listeners that some of the cast or the technical people behind the special effects are saying this is one of the bloodiest movies they've ever worked on. So if you are squeamish to gore, maybe skip that one.
Yeah.
Again, it's an Alien movie. I'm not surprised. So
right. Gore. And last but not least, it's time for the beer pick of the week.
I did it again. I went with another local brew by one of our, but it's one of our nationally accredited. Well, accredited. That sounds weird. Nationally recognized breweries, Perennial Artisan Ales, and this one is a chocolate mint stout. It's just called 17, as in March 17th, right. I guess. Being as it's been kind of cool here in St. Louis recently, it almost feels like fall or early spring.
Yeah, like 50-something degrees.
Yeah, 40s, and then at night I had to turn the heat on a few times. This kind of imperial stout aged on cocoa nibs and dried peppermint leaves all wrapped up. I even remember talking about how a chocolate stout with mint in it would just, it sounds so good. It's perfect.
Like a Thin Mint.
I'm here to tell you that this is a fantastic little brew. It is 10% ABV, so it is not a light beer by any means. But it doesn't have any IBUs, so I would argue easy to drink unless you do not like mint or chocolate or both.
Well, I do. I like both.
I gave it a 4.75. It wasn't quite a perfect for me, but it was still so good that if you do find a bottle, which I'm pretty sure you can find bottles out from St. Louis a little ways, because they do bottle this. I highly recommend picking this up. Or if you're in the St. Louis area traveling, I highly recommend checking out 17 from Perennial Artisan Ales.
So this doesn't look like 6-pack material. This looks like
750 milliliter material.
Yeah. So bigger bottle.
Yep.
And how much? About $10?
Somewhere around there, I think.
One?
Yep.
Okay. I might have to try to pick one of those up on the way home this evening.
Stop by that new place in the Grove. That's where I saw it last night when we picked up a few. So
I can't even pronounce the name of that place.
I forgot what it is.
But it's a good, it's a good place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode. We hope you have enjoyed it, and let us know what you think about the stories that we decided to talk about, and share your opinions on the products and stories that we talked about.
I may, being as I'm going to go work for Microsoft, have more things to say about hardware soon, because I will have hands-on with them constantly now.
Right.
So I might have a few more hardware picks than I usually do. So I don't know. Maybe look for that soon, hopefully. I'll definitely be sharing a lot on Snapchat hopefully Snapchat / Instagram, definitely. On, maybe new products that we get in, or just things I'm just generally excited about. I love hardware. I really like Microsoft, so
Yeah, you're going to have to just find how far you can go.
yeah, there's definitely a line that I have to walk, because there will be times that I know things that I just can't talk about. And
Hey, this product is getting ready to come out. Nobody knows about it, but it's like already here in store. It's so awesome.
from what I
can't say.
understand of the NDA, as long as it's
Publicly
known, I can talk about it. I just can't oh yeah, that's confirmed. Kind of, I can't speak in that. It's a fine line, and I'm gonna have to figure it out. So,
And also one other thing too. Yesterday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you all. By the way, we were scheduled to go to our local Six Flags here in St. Louis to try out the new Gear VR kind of roller coaster experience. But due to all the rain and the flooding, especially to get to Six Flags,
yeah.
it is getting rescheduled to another day. So we'll be able to talk about that hopefully within the next week or two, once the schedule is all finalized and we do get a chance to go out there and try this out. So
Yeah, hopefully I will be able to attend. It's kind of unclear right now.
right, especially with what you mentioned
Earlier.
to me this
Yep.
before recording that so-and-so don't want to do this job anymore. And it's like, so you might not have somebody. Yeah. Anyway, not
That's
my
for
circus.
another talk.
You're right. Not our circus, not our monkeys. We're not worried about it. It's up to somebody else. It's in their hands.
I'm using that at some point.
I love that. My wife told me about that. I'm like, I've been using it ever since. It's like, hey, what do you want me to do about it? It's not my circus. It ain't my monkeys. I don't care. So, but I don't know. Have a great week, everybody. And until next time, consider yourself informed. Find us on Instagram, Twitter. Those are the two greatest platforms, in my opinion. Twitter and Instagram.
Yep.
Best of both worlds. So, at Kevin Harvell or at Kevin_Harvell, depending on its Twitter or Instagram, and then at Holy Shadows
On both.
Yep. Lucky guy. And that does it, like I said. Until next time, consider yourself informed. We're out of here.
Here we go.